serving as town manager.
The first thing is approval of the Bluff Town Council meeting minutes of November 4th, 2025. Has everybody read them? Changes, modification, point of discussion?
Motion to approve Bluff Town Council meeting minutes of November 4th, 2025. Second.
This is gonna get everybody.
You taken?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Second is approval of Bluff Town Council work session minutes of November 11th, 2025. Any changes, modifications, points of discussion?
Motion to approve Bluff Town Council work session minutes of November 11th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. So the first thing we have before we move into the business is a presentation by Andrea Martin of Plum Ridge Trading Post and Willow Street Cottages for local consent to license a type 2 packaging agency. And Andrea, I saw that you were on.
Hi. Did everybody get a chance to read my letter?
It was sent to everybody, so I'm gonna say everybody's nodding yes.
Okay. Well, that's just it. We want to start a little mini market that has some bulk foods, zero waste bulk foods, some natural foods as well. And in addition to that, we want to serve craft or sell craft beer and wines. So we think that it would be a nice little addition to the community for not only the local residents, the tourists as well. There's not foods. I'm in Vermont right now and it's everywhere around me. I feel very spoiled. And in Bluff, Kelly's having to drive to Mancos to Zuma to get natural foods. We're invested in the community. We always have been since 2005 when we started the coffee shop. And we just keep repurposing and reinventing to make it in Bluff. I hope I've demonstrated responsible ownership when I had the restaurant with Kelly. We did serve alcohol there, so I'm familiar with an alcohol license with the state of Utah. So we would just be as vigilant as we were when we served alcohol at the restaurant. We wouldn't sell anything that's marketed towards youth. No ready-to-drink cocktails, no hard seltzers, ciders, or lemonade, no mini bottles of flavored spirits, no shooters, no plans to sell hard alcohol at first, although that could change. But if we do sell hard alcohol, it would be locked. We wouldn't sell any big, large.
He froze up. Did we lose it?
Turkey.
Yeah.
Turkeys are right. The turkeys have been the scared religion. Wow.
Andrea, we're unable to hear you at this time. Are you able to join from another meeting link
Again.
or call in via phone? Yeah. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Andrea.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There we go. Yeah, we got cut off just regarding right after the small potentially talking about hard alcohol.
Yeah, we're not really focusing on hard alcohol and like 24 packs, of beer. We're more looking at selling wine, which is what we noticed our guests are asking for, and craft beers. And a lot of tourists that come through are interested in local craft beers. So the nearest place to get wine and beer that's not bootlegged is Monticello. And a lot of our guests are coming from the south up towards Moab. And they're not necessarily coming from Moab. We feel like if we sold beer and wine, it could really get people in the door to buy the natural foods as well. It'd be a nice little source of tax revenue for the town.
Does anyone have any questions for Andrea about the business or the licensing?
So, Linda, so you would be here selling it, right, most of the time?
Correct. The the plan is to take about 400 square feet of the trading post and turn it into this little natural food market. I mean, it's a little, I call it a pocket market. Actually, the minimum square foot required to sell alcohol as a packaging agency in Utah is 100 square feet. So we're going to meet that at 400. We live right next door, so it will be monitored. Um, it will be managed responsibly.
Andrea, this is Brett. When are you hoping to get this open?
Well, the timeline is that if the town of Bluff says yes and grants us local consent, by December 10th, we'd have to submit our application into the state. That's when they next meet, their alcohol board meets. So, and if they say yes, then we come back. Right now we're in Vermont. We'd be back February/March. We'd have a little bit of build out to do. Basically consists of a wall between our apartment and the proposed food and wine shop. And then we'd have to purchase some shelving, obviously, retail shelving. The rest is fairly simple. I'm looking at UNFI as our food provider. They provided us food when we were a restaurant and a coffee shop years ago, and they have a really great selection of natural foods. Now, having said that, I plan to reach out to some other venues as well. Local, I'm really interested in getting some local folk on board. There's a bread maker in Blanding that I've talked to. I know Jen makes bread, delicious bread. I've had her bread. And of course, KB up on the hill has her honey and her other items. And then I talked to Joe about selling some of his vegetables in there. So that's kind of the hope is to get some local foods in addition to what we can procure from UNFI. And then, of course, the alcohol comes from the state. We have to serve, serve, I'm stuck in restaurant mode. We have to sell 50 varieties of alcohol.
Quite a bit. Anybody have any other questions?
So to answer your question, hopefully by June at the latest.
Awesome. Thank you.
So everyone just knows that we do have this on for a vote in later discussion today. So thank you, Andrea. Stay
Oh.
tuned. Get back. with you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
All right, then moving to number 1. Discussion and vote on Bluff Community Center fee waivers for all 501 entities. Jen, I want to thank you for getting us on the agenda again. I was really worried I'd go out of office and I wouldn't have this.
I'm just proposing that we look at it as including multiple types of 501s. I was not aware that we were strictly limited to 501c3s.
I was surprised. So when I did the research, there the 501c covers all nonprofits, tax exempt, and then there are 28 different types of nonprofits. But I think from my view, I was thinking we were covering all nonprofits, not a specific one. So this is the first time it's been brought up to the council that this is actually the broad 501c would be the broad provision. So that's what you're asking to amend. it
Yes,
to.
yes.
Not a 3 or a 3 and a 6, but
Well, I don't know all of the technical details. I just know that Bob is a 501c6, and I thought that that Bob was included in the fee waiver, but Diana brought it to our attention that it is not.
Which
So,
one is Bob?
501c6.
and we actually have used this rationale for not charging rent to the food pantry because they fall within a public service. So
So does it just need to be for, yeah, all 501? So, motion to approve Bluff Community Center fee waivers for all 501.
I'll second.
So you're aware that 501 Cs don't automatically get waived. Most of them don't get waived. For instance, if Raka comes down and they're, 501, and they are doing workshops for people that are part of, in their membership, we don't waive them. But if, let's say, the Utah State Historical Society came and they came to present to us, to the town, they were waived. So the ones that we waive are the ones who present to the town. Not everybody. In fact, if we did everybody, who would be paying the bills for the community center, for the salaries, for the utilities? I mean, it would basically be using taxpayer money.
Didn't we at one point bust down like how much they were paying, like we were losing on waiving? Can't remember it off the top of my head.
I don't have those numbers
Yeah.
right in front of me.
I mean, if it was a significant amount, what if we just waived it for local 501s? Like all Bluff 501s, or, I don't know what region we would include in that, but.
Well, we've had some really good presentations from the state, from out of the state for certain things that people here are really interested in. And, they come to us or Malia and we decide to waive them, although they still pay the cleaning fee. But if we started waiving everyone just because they're 501c, it's almost like we're a charity. We're giving up taxpayer money to, it's a nice thing to do, but it's in terms of being a business where we're responsible for the taxpayer money in town. I don't think, we've argued over this for the last 5 or 6 years, and finally what we do is, if we waive, then the criteria is they're performing a service. The art festival was going before we became a town. The Balloon Festival is going before we became a town. The Dark Skies, are our partners. We've worked with them to get Dark Skies.
I was just under the impression that when this all started multiple years ago, with Bob coming to the town of Bluff for fee waivers on their events, that it was agreed that Bob events wouldn't be charged the rental fee. Those events are primarily put on to attract business to town, which brings business income into town.
Right,
And I don't, like I said, I don't know all of the ins and outs of 501(c)s to do a basic blanket waiver. But it was just brought to my attention that Bob wasn't eligible to, yeah, cool.
The way the contract is currently written, if you are a registered 501(c)(3), the rental fee is waived, cleaning fee still applies. Regardless of if it's public or private.
That's just for 50C3s.
Yes.
is Bears Ears Partnership of 503C.
Let's see.
And so they pay around, I don't know, 350 or so a day when they rent for their Celebrate.
Bears does? But they're a 501(c)(3).
So why would we, I mean, why would we give it to them for free?
Let's look at it. Bears Ears does so many things here, I can't remember. I know that they request fee waivers. They have a few times, but I can't remember which events they were doing here, that they did that for. I mean, so I did find that document you put together, Malia or Aaron, both of you, with some of the information, and it looks like we made 1,750 off 1,750 off of 501(c)(3 rentals at the time. And we waived 3 times out of 6. It was like 10 rentals total, 3 fees waived. One rental fee that was waived was 6 full-day rentals. That was $1,300. So it looks like we've given up 1,750. To 501(c)(3, if I understand this document.
Are the majority of our rentals to blanket 501(c)?
Threes. Most of our rentals in general. Oh, gosh, okay, I'm looking through my, looking through my spreadsheet now.
I
I
guess
wouldn't
we,
say so.
I guess
would
we
say
wouldn't
the
even know
majority
that.
of them are. Depending on the time of year. In May, we have a lot of private rentals as well as around December this year, actually. So,
Basically get to charge everyone or charge no one. It's because that's what she was getting frustrated.
Cause at this point, is it just kind of like on a case by case basis whose fee gets waived?
No, what we did was we limited it to 501(c)(3s. So if it wasn't a C3,
Okay,
and that's what we were asking proof of, because in my mind, not realizing there were a lot of other categories, that was just a clear cutoff. Um.
We just didn't do it. For now. When is the event they're wanting to do, Jen?
Well, it was last weekend.
And they paid for it.
No, Drew ended up applying for it instead.
Bears Ears Partnership.
Yeah, oh, Bears Ears did, okay,
Okay.
cause Bluff Community Foundation had offered to apply for it as well, and you know, I mean, I guess that's fine, but I just kind of thought one of the entities that was intended to be waived was Business Centers of Bluff, and their 501(c)(6) and the C3.
So what if we did something like Spencer's talking about, that if it's, first of all, I'd like to address what Linda said about when the state comes in and presents. My thinking was whenever a government agency is presenting, we don't charge. It's a mutual respect kind of thing, like they're coming in to give us information, so we're not charging them. So I don't really factor that in, but what if we did something that said, if it's a local 501(c), and say, and define what local is, so that someplace like you are, where they have a bigger net out. Or a bigger organization. Otherwise, I can't think of any other way to do it. Other than to say, everybody pays and nobody's paid. And we're back to that decision.
and the number was 1,750, that's how much we waived, and then how much did we make off of 501(c)(3s?
Yeah.
Or nothing off of 501(c)(3s?
I can't really tell from this document. I was trying.
Something I wrote up that I'll think I knew what it would say.
But just so you know, Spencer, it says it looked different for Polaris, but calendar year and checks money orders paid for the combination PCC and FK total rent and the kitchen rentals total 10,000.
Okay.
Here, let me forward this to you.
So right now, do we have any pending requests for rental where they've asked to waive the fee?
I mean, there's a rental this weekend with Stewardship Utah. That I haven't received payment for yet. So yes. They didn't request it though, because they are at 501.
But they didn't request it.
Because in the contract, it currently says, if you are a 501, it's waived.
501c3.
501c3.
Yeah, sorry, if you're a 501c3, rental fee is waived, cleaning fee still applies.
Are they a C3? So we don't have one that's immediately looming. So we could try to get some language crafted that kind of meets all the concerns. And then just circulate the language in the next 2 weeks and then just do a quick vote knowing how we've all discussed it. Do that.
Put it on my list.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily expect to vote tonight, it was just something that caught me by surprise last week. Enough, and
Continue to be an issue, like, so.
I'll take that project of trying to put something together that kind of addresses what we're talking about, what everybody's concerns are.
There's a current open motion.
So.
So to date, for the fiscal year, we've taken in $2,155 for community center rental fees, which includes the kitchen.
Now I retract mine, or you gotta put it down.
We brought it down, we bring it back.
Okay, so I
Just
I retract my motion.
sounds good. Yes, I retract my second.
And we'll just treat this as moving to the next meeting, which would be December 2nd. Yeah. I'll try to see if I can figure out something. Then this is number 2 is a report on the status of converting Blufftown documents to Americans with Disabilities Act. The compliance and conversation with doc access that Malia and I had yesterday on Monday, November 17th. And Malia, if you could kind of walk through what we learned from them.
Yes, so we met with Mariah from Doc Access and they partner with Streamline. And they have a program essentially that we would pay for monthly, that they would take all of our current PDFs. And there's a toggle option, like your autosave on the top of your Microsoft Word goes from off to on. You can go from the original document and it toggles over to an accessible document. So she is saying that there's nothing that we would need to do with any of our current PDFs. It was just something that if we were to become a member with them, sign the contract, which there's a choice between monthly or an annual contract. Annual would lock in the fee. And basically they would convert all of our PDF documents to that HTML. They have worked with tens of thousands of organizations to do this. They have their own legal team. If we were to sign up with them, they would cover any lawsuits that would occur. And they have never lost a lawsuit, she told us. They also have, and on top of that, the IRA, AIRA, a visual interpreter that if someone is visually disabled, they can call IRA and they will actually read maps or documents to them and help them to understand them better. So also very accessible in that way. With CAG, the WCAG standards, which is what this ADA is, the standards that it's falling to, it's currently at 2.1, but apparently every so often, she wasn't totally sure, it's not necessarily annual, but their standards update. And she said that they will continue to change with those, so it's not something that we have to continue staying on top of those standard changes. She said that their rates are about 3 to 6 cents per page, whereas a lot of the other resources are like $10 to $15 per page. And that's basically where it comes in, just the monthly cost. There is not a implementation fee. It's truly just that set cost. And like I said, if we were to do a year contract, we would lock in a rate. She did make an interesting statement that legally, we only need to have 3 years of records on our website. And so what she recommends to decrease the number of documents that we have to transfer over is to take the rest of those other years off, just keep our last 3. And then if a grammar request come in, Anne asked a great question. If a grammar request comes in, we can let them know, they'll go back, turn that access on, turn it accessible so that we can then share it.
So I asked about whether someone like Civic Plus that we used before does this, and it sounds like when I looked at Civic Plus, I couldn't find anything, but they piecemeal them. They're the other big national kind of document gathering facility, and they just piecemeal it and they contract out a lot of it. So the one reason their price is, well, probably one reason their price is higher is they're contracting out their services rather than having in-house support, which this company seems to have. But there is I think, yeah, she sent the meeting recording link in her email. If people want to go, listen to or watch the meeting. It was really good. Malia asked a lot of questions on the access part of it, the computer programming part, which I couldn't begin to even formulate. So thank you for doing that. But I think they definitely are worth looking at having them do 3 years and then keeping us up and current.
What was the cost?
3,000 a year if you do annual, 250 if you do monthly.
And then, so do I understand correctly though, since they have the ability to turn on and off the toggle, if we went away from them, we would lose all that accessibility?
I didn't ask that question,
Either.
but I didn't, I didn't, that's probably a good question to ask.
Yeah.
It is a good question to ask.
And one more question with that. So there's the annual fee, but then there's the additional per page fee to transfer it all over, or is it just the annual fee and they do all of that? Oh, okay.
So 250 a month to do all of it.
And is that just an estimate based on the number of pages, or is that like a set thing for our municipality size?
It was based on a combination of municipality size and the estimate of the number of documents we have.
Okay.
So would it be cheaper the next year with less documents to transfer over?
Probably not, from the sounds of it, like the maintenance piece of it. And keep in mind that that's also based on not going all the way from 2018. That's going from, within 3 years. I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't recall ever seeing, other than our discovery in our litigation, I don't recall ever seeing a request that went back to look at records that were older than kind of the current year we're working in. That seems to be what most people want.
According to the handbook, we have to have hard copies of the minutes here. So that if someone comes in, they can look at them.
But we haven't had any written grammar requests from anybody that I can think of that let's say went all the way back to 2018. Like, give me all your records from 2018.
Right. The few that we've had that go back a ways usually turn out to be Bluffdale.
Yeah, one problem with being named Bluff.
And they would go back if we.
Yes, so
We needed them to.
should we? so the
Hard
question-
copy ADA is under the same regulations as things that we have on our website with this compliance order.
Say that again?
Hard copy. cause I thought we were
This is just
basing
the-
mostly on our website, so. So if we have to have hard copies of things, we have hard copies. But that's not what we're having to come into compliance with right now.
We have hard copies.
Yeah,
Different things.
We could ask Leah to make a call and ask that question. And we could do it now, move on and then come back to this, or we could just roll this over to December as well.
Seems like it would save us a lot of money doing this. This route instead of having a person manually do it, but then it does lock us into this, and if we cancel the subscription, then we'd have to do it again.
yeah, I'd like to have some follow-up on Aaron's question. If we cancel the service, do we then lose any ADA access that we gained when we paid for it?
So the question is, we want to ask Leah to run back and make that call because they're in Sacramento, so they're.
Oh, they're
earlier than us. Or, and just move on to the next item.
You're gonna move on to number 8 or 7.
So it doesn't have anything for vote on here, it's just a report, so you can.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
so then, no, we can just find that out later.
And one other thing that nobody caught is I have no public comment on this agenda. So
Oops.
when people are looking at the agendas, can you
Yes.
read? And I thought maybe what I do is just say, if anybody's listening and you want to make a public comment at 5 o'clock, we'll take a break and let you make a public comment, because that's something we do routinely. I'm not concerned since it's just a comment. So anybody listening, if you intended to make a public comment, 5 o'clock, and then everybody help me remember that we're gonna take a break to see if anybody has anything. So Lilia, are you able to check in with the person we talked to yesterday and see? Could you do it now?
Right now?
Yep, run back and we'll skip over number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Go to 7 and have a discussion and then come back. You just- So number 7 is a discussion and vote on the request by Plum Ridge Trading Post and Willow Street Cottages for local consent to license a type 2 packaging agency. When I was talking with, well, first of all, going through the package that was provided by Andrea Martin, she and I had several conversations by email or text about the distance from West Park, and it is far away from West Park. That was not an issue at all. And the fact that their businesses, these businesses seem to meet all of the criteria. And then this still has to go to the state for approval. I am definitely in favor of voting yes, but I will add one personal comment. I live behind that business. It is probably, sorry, everybody, one of the best business models I've ever seen. It's fully occupied. It's very well maintained, to the extent that when I sent an email about some trash from a dog, it was immediately addressed by the Mertens. They run a really tight business. We've never seen a police call there for a disturbance of the peace or anything. People sit out in the nice little park area of their building and have dinner. I think it would be a great asset to many of the people that live here to be able to have something local and support something local rather than having to drive to get alcohol. So other thoughts or thoughts?
I'm in favor of it as well. I think it's a great asset to our community. I think it'll. I just think it's a great asset.
I think so as well. I think a little grocery aspect too, like having some food items would be awesome.
And I'll just plagiarized what Britt said when was talking with him today. He said, really, what's the difference between the K and C, going and getting your beer and picking up a snack versus going into this? And I really have appreciated them as neighbors for business, so. Linda, any thoughts on this?
So, yeah, I think it would be good. I mean, KMC has a certain clientele and this would, be other people like would be more interested in natural foods and things.
Motion to approve request by Comb Ridge Trading Post Willow Street Cottages for local consent to license a type 2 packaging agency.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. I have the local consent here. I will go ahead and sign that and make arrangements to get that to Andrea and Kelly Martin. Then jumping back up to number 2, the conversion of documents. Malia, were you able to find anything?
No, I didn't.
So I think that is a really good point. We should clarify. Should I just move it to December 2nd?
Maybe we should be hesitant with that subscription. That's the month.
Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, if you can just send them to me so that I can make sure that Malia and or I follow up with them to get those clarified. All right, then number 3 is an update on design review committee, and that is Malia and Britt. Is there anything going on?
Yeah, so we hosted a design review committee meeting this past Thursday. Because there was a discussion by the engineers about the auditorium and kitchen and upgrading it to the VRF HVAC system and the weight of an electrical system for VRF on the roof. Our roof is not strong enough. And also we need some incoming air for our current hood system. And so they made a recommendation that we keep it existing, but actually wire for the new VRF system. We took their recommendation, said, yeah, that sounds great. You guys do what you recommend, and then we'll just get the wiring set up. I attended a Lawyers for Good Government meeting last week as well. And we have some options on what to do with that. I don't want to get too far into the weeds because we do have that work session scheduled on December 9th. But we have some options on if we want to close out, if we want to stay in a sense with the district court, because there's currently a section 138 litigation that potentially could cover us, but it doesn't cover us right now because we are not a named plaintiff and it does not cover the entire section 138. And we have the option to file in district court. We also have an option to go through the Court of Federal Claims. They have a workshop coming up that I will attend to figure out a little bit more about what that means. That's going to start in early December. But there was some new information brought up that there is a chance that if we don't close out within the 120 days, which puts us at the end of January, that we will receive a notice, a slap on the wrist in sam.gov, basically saying that we did not properly follow the closeout procedures. And so something to think about if we do want to close out this EPA grant, just so that we can continue receiving federal funds over the next couple of years. That would eventually come off of our sam.gov, but there is the chance that it could stay on there and keep us from receiving funds in the future.
So it feels to me like you probably need to put that on that work session and kind of flush out what each of those options are. So is it the actual last day in January, or is there a date?
it's 120 days from when we sent the last letter, which was the 24th or the 28th. I'll get the exact date.
So with us not making the changes to the auditorium and kitchen heating and cooling, that eliminates the 1,900. No,
No, it doesn't eliminate that. I did make that call right before because they said it was all about the electrical changes that required the 1950, which we are still going to have the electrical changes, just
not the structural
Not
changes.
yeah.
So you folks just wanna get a little more detail on this for the work session?
Yeah, when Britt and Malia and I were discussing it, Britt and my feeling were that we didn't really want to jeopardize our SAM's number for up and coming grants in case we have to use it for something else, like E-roads or anything like that. We felt like it was better to just do the work to close out the grant properly.
I don't have faith that money's gonna back, like, doesn't seem to be much effort from our representatives to get it back. I think that's probably our better bet in the court to force it, like, and I don't have much faith. Courts forcing them to do much anyways, so I think it's probably better for us to button it up.
I do think this is something, we had a little bit of a discussion, Malia and I did about this. I do think that talking about it at the work session on the 9th, but I do think this does require a council vote to whichever the action is. So please help me remember to make sure that there's a vote on this team. Yeah, I don't think the money's gonna be coming back in this regime, no, but I don't think. I think we need to look at the options of what happens to our SAM number if we don't do something. All right, then moving to number 4, review and vote to accept donation policy and agreement.
Oh, thank you, Erin. I realized I do not have sharing access. It's okay.
Do you want me to?
No.
I can give you access if you want. Well, it says you should be able to. Right, well, I can just share.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Oh, I do see it. I do have the option to share. Now that you got it. Okay, so I put together a donation policy. If you guys, I hope you get the chance to look through it. This is to outline all donations coming into the town. At this point, it will also include food pantry donations, which was the reason I was hoping to get it on here and get this approved or to get your feedback on this time. Included with it on the last page is also an agreement that the individual would fill out saying what it is that they are donating and also waiving their rights, saying I am not able to name the community center after myself because I made this donation.
Does it talk about fundraisers at all in here?
Yes.
I'm point out the section.
Yes.
Because we have that one that one policy on fundraising already. It was specific to the CCC, to the Cooperative Cultural Center.
It does not have fundraiser in there, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that things like the EMS fundraiser and things like that. would not necessarily fall into this policy if it's like
Okay.
a one-off event. That those smaller donations could just still be collected, or, I mean, if the council does want this, then maybe a shorter form or something like that. But that would be my only recommendations to ensure that either we distinguish between the two and have a separate policy or note it in this policy somehow.
Okay. There is this clause that is a certain amount of money.
Okay.
That it's in number 8 donation agreement. Except as set forth, the town shall not accept a donation of money, a cash equivalent, or a negotiable security having a value of. I currently have $5,000 or more. Unless the donor enters into a donation agreement. Which would make
Yeah.
potentially those types of fundraisers. Not have to fall into that. But I can easily change that number if you guys have a preference on what you want that number to be.
Didn't we get a big donation a year or two ago from one person, and it was, I don't remember, I feel like it was 10,000. This does, 5,000 does seem low to me.
Okay. What would you like to see?
Saying that we can't accept donations above that is just saying that they have to be in to enter into an agreement. So this is just for smaller denominations under 5,000. I think 5,000 is a fairly substantial amount of money for a donation.
So there are restrictions on money and money laundering and $10,000. And I think we have to update under 10,000, make sure that we're not having to report a donation without having the appropriate paperwork that goes with it. I don't know the ins and outs of how that 10 grand works, but I do know that that is the threshold that the federal government uses for looking at money laundering. And so I think that 5,000 should be fine, because if somebody's giving like 6,000, all they have to do is fill out the donation information, and then we're covered by that. I just had a couple questions. So instead of using the words this chapter, it probably should be resolution, because this would be either a resolution or a policy. And I think we're just kind of separating resolutions from policies, so it's probably like the policy would be the language. Rather than chapter, but chapter would imply that it's a part of the code, and it's not going to be that. Under 3C. Talks about improvements of the town property with consent of the town. I'm a little nervous about that because it opens the door to somebody offering to do improvements after they've done it and saying they're confused. I really am stuck between, it's a good idea to have it in there, because then if somebody goes out and improves a road or an alley, we've got a policy that covers it. On the other hand, I can imagine somebody reading this and saying, oh, I can make an improvement on the road. I can make an improvement on an alley, and not really reading the whole paragraph, but I suppose that's true of the whole document.
That is where we inserted shall be approved by town council. By town, we'll put that in there.
How about in writing?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, have that one be. They make the request in writing and they get approval in writing, and at least that gives us something rather than saying, hey, I was at this party and asked you about this and you said yes, and now you're telling me I had to get prior approval from the council, so. Aaron, were your concerns addressed?
Yeah.
So at this point, I have the Town of Bluff donation agreement as the last page. Should there also be a smaller form for people to complete if they're giving any sort of donation? Because as of this, with the writing of this policy, the only time they would need to fill this out is if it's over a $5,000 donation. Would you also like something for below 5,000?
You could put language in that says if somebody wants this, to use this as a receipt or proof that they did it, they're welcome to submit it if it's under 5. You know, maybe make it as an option, like if you're donating less than 5,000, but you'd like a written record, fill out this form. Under the acknowledgement, where it's the two options on the first pages of agreement. I wish to remain anonymous, no public announcement, Brandon still applies. So does anonymous mean that if somebody's looking at our budget and they see that there was $1,000 donation in the month of December, that they would, if they were talking to one of us separately, we wouldn't disclose who it was? Because the anonymous means we don't talk about it. And I would just take the option out and just say, please, you know, do you want to be acknowledged publicly? And then just let people sort out what anonymous, and not have the words anonymous out here.
Okay.
Anybody have a strong feeling about that, or?
That's fine.
I removed language earlier in the policy that had said something about remaining anonymous, just because I realized that we weren't able to do that because of grandma. And I think what this was basically just no public announcement. It's not going to be at the town council meeting. It's not going to be, and thank you to so-and-so for this donation. It's just, they just don't want it to be discussed.
Yeah. So I
But-
think just giving them the option to ask to make it public is
Okay.
fair.
Okay.
And then just make sure you catch the word city to town.
Okay.
So do we feel comfortable voting on it with these changes, or do we need to see it again?
I feel comfortable.
I feel comfortable.
Okay, sweet. Motion to accept the donation policy.
Second,
Yeah. With changes
No.
noted.
still second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Then the second one is review and vote to accept the art rail policy and agreement. Leah?
That's me too. I have all kinds of things on her agenda today. Can you see the art rail? There we go. Okay, so this is the art rail policy for the town offices. So we got those installed, and we did have someone hang some artwork up for the arts festival, but they had some concerns about how it was going to how safe their artwork was, and basically if they were to sell something, if we would remove it. So I just decided to spell something out so that if someone does hang it up, we have an understanding that they are displaying it for, I said 12 months, or as determined by them. If they want it to be less, they can say that in the last page in the agreement, stating that the installation and removal is the artist's responsibility. If they sell something, it is their responsibility to accept the payment, but basically we are not touching it. It is in our office, and anything that has to do with the art is the artist's responsibility. One spot I was looking for some feedback, sold artwork must remain on display until the end of the exhibition period unless otherwise approved by the town.
That's the only question that I have with it. I didn't see why it would have to stay on display.
Especially if you have something like we have a tourist in here for something and they just wanna buy it.
Right, they would have to wait a significant amount of time, so,
And I wouldn't really want that coming. The town, you know.
right.
or that.
That's true. Okay. I'll remove that.
Maybe we could put something about replacing.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean. Kind of seems like if we have spaces available and we're not letting other people display, then maybe they need to keep that space filled.
Okay.
That's kind of, I think probably more marketing kind of thing that Malia can say, like, you're putting up 15 things, but if some of it goes, we may have another artist fill in. You
Okay.
know, we maybe not have it in the agreement. Along with the sale piece of it, like when I read this, it doesn't really clearly spell out that the artist is solely responsible. We don't want them calling here to say, hey, Aaron, I saw that piece on the wall. Can you tell me how to reach out to the artist? Or can I come back and look at it?
Yeah.
This should all fall on the artist, not on staff to be because you're here.
Right.
You wanna make it really clear, you're not here to sell their art. So I don't know how you wanna phrase that, but something that's,
It does say all transactions are strictly between the artist and the buyer, but maybe that's not quite detailed enough.
I'm thinking of. The scenario I think more likely is. The financial ones, the buying and selling itself will definitely be clear. What won't be clear is the person who comes in and then wants to park. In the office and talk to Aaron or talk to Malia, and then maybe can you call the artist, or the artist isn't here, or the person calling in, you know, on the phone or texting and emailing. And I don't know how we prevent it, but I think if there's some language that could be just like. One sentence, like the town of Bluff. Officials and staff are not touching any of this, period, end of discussion.
Something like that, it has to be. Contact information has to be posted near the art or whatever on the wall,
So
so.
is there a spot on our website that we could have our featured artist of the whatever and how to get a hold of that person? And then we could just say, you can look on the website to find out.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah,
Right.
on the bulletin board.
So I feel like that'd be the good policy and.
We have, the town does not participate in, handle funds for, or facilitate sales. So something along that same lines. In that case, do we provide the artist with a key to the hallway so that they can let people in to look at the artwork? Or how they can only look at it during office hours and whenever that is, that Aaron and I decide.
There again, they could have their featured work listed on the website or
Okay.
on their website or something that people could look at it, you know, remotely and then come secure the actual piece if they want.
Yeah.
During business hours.
Yeah,
Would think, and if they're like pushing for sale, better places.
yeah.
Yeah, and if it becomes a problem, maybe we'll have to change it. If it does become people hassling you and Aaron. And whoever's in the office.
Are we comfortable with it, with these changes we've discussed?
Yes, I am.
One more thing to add is probably at any minute or at any time, we can say that it's time for the artwork to come down, so the town can break this contract at any time, if it does become too aggravating.
Put it exactly like that.
You get 4 aggravating tallies before it comes down.
Get another aggro tally, sorry.
Add that somehow to the display terms, maybe in the duration.
Okay,
Are we able to decline the right based on what we deem inappropriate? Is that not a First Amendment issue?
I mean, it's all, and like, that always comes up with,
Yeah, I would just be careful with that language,
okay,
but
because
we,
that's not necessarily honored. I mean, I think maybe could specify like lewd or something like that,
You
but
know,
we,
pornography.
yeah, we probably don't have, we probably can't just do deemed inappropriate. You
Mhm.
probably want to specify.
okay.
I would just say reserves the right to decline artwork, period.
Oh,
Just to, we, you know, if we get a particular thing and we have the right to modify the policy, you get somebody who put something in there that is a ringer that we didn't know about, then we just come back in and modify it. But I would just, yeah,
The artist can take heart, because that's the true definition of art, is it makes people. Pat on the back.
Includes aggravated.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
to
It's
go
really
back to if there's if someone does sell something, you could say. If a piece is sold, the space is available to another artist. Which gives you like options. I mean, you could, that artist could put something or someone else and.
do we have an artist lined up for the next showing?
There is interest.
Good.
Motion to accept our real policy agreement. With changes to sentence.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Then number 6, review and vote to accept Malia Collins' employment contract.
Can we make a slight detour to public comment for 5 o'clock?
Oh, sure. Thank you for catching that. All right, if anyone is online or in the room, and we are the only ones in the room, no public audience. If anyone is online, would like to make a public comment, raise your hand in the, or put a note in the chat box, raise the hand icon. And we'll give it a minute. Is there anyone online that looks like they're indicating? And it's 5:02.
I am not seeing anyone who's indicating that they would like to make a public comment, and if the notice has been in the chat box for a little bit. So.
Okay, then I think we can move on. So number 8, no, number 6, we're back on 6. Leah Collins employment contract.
So I realized with becoming administrative director, I didn't sign a contract even back in May. So here we are. So it looks kind of funny because it has in number 2 duties, it says a salaried role, full-time salaried role averaging, it says 30 hours a week until October 10th, when it increases to approximately 40. So it's a little bit wordy there, but figure it's probably good to get an employment contract filed in the books. This is a lot of, the format is very similar to Aaron's employment contract, and we just kind of copy and pasted and then edited as we needed to. Reviewing my employment contract, it's nice to see some of the things that I should be doing. So there are some of the changes in red. Number 3, the at-will employment, I did add, nothing in this agreement shall prevent, limit, or otherwise interfere with the right of the town to terminate this agreement at any time for any reason. I just added with a quorum or a passing vote by Bluff Town Council. And nothing in this agreement shall prevent, limit, or otherwise interfere with the rights, ... So I did add with a quorum or a passing vote by Bluff Town Council. You guys.
So would you take out quorum and passing and put in majority?
Already.
You're gonna want to increase that to 64,500.
Oh, no.
I should have caught that earlier.
No.
It's actually 74.
And that's
We're demonstrating.
Thanks for catching that.
Sorry, I didn't catch it over there.
And then number 10A. We were removing the. The sitting without a jury. So that a jury could sit. When my case is heard by the court.
Now Aaron's contract came from Chris, correct? So. We can either run this by Chris and add to the workload that. He has, or we can accept. This, since most of this mirrors, a lot of this mirrors what was in Aaron's contract that was drafted by Chris.
Yeah. Too long.
That would be big.
Great, maybe Chris, we need to.
Do something that he's already done.
Motion to accept Malia Collins' employment contract. With changes discussed.
Second motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Then number 8, discussion and vote on Bluff's Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to appoint Ann Brown to the 3-year Bluff Planning and Zoning Commission midterm seat.
I think it's great that we have an advocate willing to step up and take it, so I'm in favor of appointing you.
Sounds good.
And she had applied before. Correct? Did she apply?
Did she reapply?
No, I don't.
Yeah, she had applied during the last open.
Oh,
I thought so, so we.
She's still willing to do it? Okay,
Yeah.
great, yeah.
And she'd like the 3-year term. She had specified that she'd prefer the 3-year term over the 1-year.
Great.
8-year term.
Else? All right, motion to accept Bluff's Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to appoint Ann Brown to 3-year Bluff's Planning and Zoning Commission midterm seat.
Second.
all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Number 9, discussion and vote on Bluff's Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to appoint Caitlin McLennan to the 1-year midterm Bluff's Planning and Zoning Commission. The fact that we had 2 people willing to step up is great. So,
She's got school experience with,
A master's degree,
yeah,
Nice,
I was in planning.
excellent.
yeah.
that's wonderful. Well,
So, motion to, accept Bluff Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to appoint Caitlin McLennan to the 1-year midterm Bluffs Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Discussion and vote to pay bills. Aaron.
They got a couple bills to pay, notably, the largest is going to be the attorney's fees from October. Sorry, let me get this shared really fast. I am also requesting a transfer of $30,000 from PTIF to cover those fees as well as some of the general expenses that we will incur through early December in our next meeting. We also have a small balance due after the Utah Local Government Trust completed the workers' comp audit. And that's just because we have taken on so many additional paid staff members between the interns and building department and everything. So it's just an adjustment from previous fiscal years. So we will also see an increase in coming fiscal years, but this is just an adjustment. Let's see here, got some utilities, got some stuff on the bank card that we're looking to pay off. And the bill did come in for the tree removal over on Mulberry, which are the roads department. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Is that,
No, go ahead.
sorry, is that the final on that? Or is there, that is gonna wait?
I believe we will still have some, or not believe, we will still have some things in November because there is some back and forth. We are still waiting to hear back after our latest request for the survey description.
I'm gonna bite my tongue on that one. We will, we will still then have to file with the state and do all the recording, so there'll be some fees. But that should be the end of the litigation fees in the next month.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Then. Report on Bluff Waterworks Special Service District Meeting, November 12, 2025, and the discussion as to replacement options for attending the Bluff Waterworks meeting. So Linda, Jen, and I were all there at the meeting on the 12th. And included in that, in their agenda this time, was the budget discussion for 2026. Although some of us wanted to jump ahead to 2027. Sorry. So there was a budget discussion next month when they have their meeting on December 10th at 7 o'clock p.m. That will be the budget hearing as well, the public budget hearing, and then the regular meeting. So if folks want to know what Bluff Waterworks is doing in terms of a budget, they should come to the meeting on December 10th. And the quality of the water, the testing, everything was the same as it has been. It's been good. But I think the big piece that people need to take away was that there'll be a budget hearing and a moving forward into January.
Yeah, everything else was pretty normal.
One of the things in public comment, comments from the public that I made was that with Linda and myself being off the council, that doesn't necessarily mean that Linda or I wouldn't still want to have our Wednesday once a month date night, but it does mean that this is something that the 2026 council should really take seriously about continuing to go and have folks show up, and particularly since I think 2026 and 2027 will be years that that the town will be looking at how these things merge together, and it's really important. There is no other real public attendance by people at this meeting, and it's extremely important. They manage and distribute our water. And if the council doesn't take it seriously, the town isn't going to. So I think it's really important that be on your list of, pretty quick actions. But the December 10th is a good one to, for people to get familiar with looking at their budget and what they do. So
what time is it at?
7 o'clock, and it's in the library old jail.
Just as a reminder, if you're planning on going, we should probably post it as what, if there's gonna be more than
More than
3 of
more
us.
than 3, but there are 3 of us, Dietrich, Janice,
I'm
participant.
an employee of the waterworks at that point in time.
So,
Just
oh,
be
wait,
as
so
a council
the-
member.
okay,
So you could probably just get by with doing some kind of general annual posting at a Bluff Waterworks. There might, there could be more than 2, but we just really by default kept had it at 2. We've had a couple times where Luann Cook would show up, especially when it was something to do with the testing.
Times. Ever, I can't remember why.
Okay, then. Linda, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
This is. Besides this one, there's a couple other boards that will need, members, but. This one, the meetings are really short. I mean, you kind of learn a lot over time about, which is really helpful, about how things work with them. So it's been really helpful going, I mean, we've been going for 7 years, basically. So it's really helpful. And you're not going out of town, you're not doing a Zoom, it's.
It's very rare that our meetings ever last longer than 30 minutes. Typically, they're in the 10 to 20 minute range. That's how we like to keep them.
Awesome.
All right.
Linda,
then.
were we gonna discuss Linda's other roles that, I mean, she also sits on the TTAB board. I sit on that as well, but I sit as a business owner rather than a town representative. I think it's.
I think those two should be addressed with the new council. With the
Okay.
new members. I think that's, but yes, you're absolutely right.
TTAB and Community Economic Development Board.
I have a list of the various slots we have on different committees and boards. That I'll probably try to get on one of our meetings to go through, like Michael Havoc and his time up at the Special Service District for the San Juan Road. San Juan Transportation Board. His time was up the end of December, and they've extended him a year. So I thought it'd be a good idea to go over all the boards where we've got people sitting and see what the 2026 council is going to need to replace.
Does the Economic Development Board need to be appointed as well? I know TTAB, we would have to appoint somebody to replace you. Or have people apply to, well, I don't, your role probably doesn't have to be applied for, does it? 'Cause-
Well, no, it's a
just
county
a
board,
board.
so what you
Yeah.
do is, so I resign.
Right.
I've done it, but I resign in writing, and the board makes a recommendation, okay, so when I got on those boards, first of all, the council made a recommendation.
Right,
And
So-
then it goes to that actual board, and they have to make a recommendation to
Right.
county commissioners.
but I was trying to remember, because I just know when I replaced Cindy that I had to submit a letter in writing that I wanted to sit, but I think that since yours is a town council seat, I wonder if the town council just appoints who we want to replace on the town council seat position.
It's a good question.
I'll ask Allison, we have a meeting there first, so I'll ask.
Yeah, I'll put,
I mean, that way we just decide through the town council who's going to sit on that board rather than having to have that person write a letter of intent and everything else.
I don't remember the letter of intent, but the county commissioners have to.
They still have to approve it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know I had to write a letter of intent and request to fulfill that seat as a business owner. But I think that since yours is a town council seat,
Mm,
that same thing doesn't necessarily apply. I'm trying to remember how Blanding replaced whoever they replaced with Ben. I can't remember. who they
the
replaced.
county's gone both ways on the county planning and zoning with our seat.
But that's not a specific town appointed seat, is it?
It was, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it was. And now it's not going to be, it's going to
Yeah,
be
okay.
removed. But I'm kind of fighting that with them right now. Because the purpose of having the purpose of removing Bluff from the county planning and zoning is that there's no unincorporated land any longer within our boundaries, which is not accurate. We do now
Yes, we
have
do.
unincorporated land within our boundaries, which should give us a seat. So I'm agreeing with Matt. All right, then number 12, discussion of the joint meeting on November 20th with Bluffs Planning and Zoning Commission. I put this on here more as a reminder that we have that, and the agenda's been set. Postings are being done, so hopefully those of us who can make it, and if you can't, that's okay, we'll just update you. Don't they usually have like hors d'oeuvres and? Yeah. Any questions about the planning and zoning meeting, the joint meeting? Then other. Is there any other?
I just wanted to let you all know about the Dark Sky Festival. I think it was a great success for our first year. Thank you to everybody who participated. I did not participate as much as I would have liked to on Saturday because I was a little bit busy, but when I did a count on Friday evening, we had on my rough count, because I was just trying to do a quick rough count, we had anywhere from 125 to 130 participants inside this room. There were lots of people outside as well. So I personally feel like it was a huge success for our first festival. And we did hear a lot of comments and feedback of people who are putting it on their list and want to attend in the future. So I think we're gonna try to shoot for another one next year. We'll see how it goes, and to see how Wiped Out Sarah and Bears Partnership and Diana Davidson were irreplaceable for this festival. I mean, they really carried the ball for the whole thing. And so thank you to Sarah and Carolyn and Diana and everybody at Bears Partnership. Spencer ran the telescope, but they were great on setting up and taking down. And I really think it was great festival. We had beautiful weather. Yay.
That was amazing.
It was amazing because all week we were watching it. It was like, we're not gonna get any telescopes. We're not gonna get telescopes. And then bam, both nights we had beautiful telescopes.
Oh, and even
So-
Saturday, it was cloudy and
Yep,
only a
yep.
few telescopes were set up. I
Yep.
think it scared most of them off, but then right when it was supposed
Yep.
to start,
Just opened up.
clear
It was
skies.
beautiful.
Held out the rain all the next.
Yep,
day.
yeah, which is just what we wanted it to do.
Good magic.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Just-
I think it was really great to get some good dark sky awareness out there too. We had good speakers and yeah, it was good.
Any other? All right, it is 5:23 PM.
Good work, motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Here.